And this past year, this year I didn't write down any. However, I started to believe the power of writing your goals down. And if you'd like to know more about it, I recommend you read the book that Rich recommended, Thinking and Growing Rich. And in our book, it talks about the power of words and believing. And next would be the evaluation part. The first one is Peter Ash. Please come over here to evaluate our.
So Harvey gave an excellent speech. I was most impressed by his organization, even though it was a collection of anecdotes. I thought the anecdotes all were related to one another. I thought that Harvey came across as being a bit nervous in his presentation, which included time when he made a mistake in his reference to Tom Seaver as the corporate economist, not as the corporate spokesman, the second time that you referred to him. I was charmed by the way that he readily admitted that he had no interest in baseball or knowledge about it. That seems almost un-American. And I have trouble when I tell people the same thing. I generally just keep quiet about it. I would suggest a different title rather than Bleeding Fish in a Shark Tank. Maybe Adventures in Business. Also, I felt a common thing in his theme was the imposter syndrome, the feeling that he wasn't really an economist, that he was supposed to introduce a baseball player when he knew nothing about baseball. That he was, so I thought that something that mentioned about the imposter syndrome might be a better title, or maybe a title like "Fake It Till You Make It." So, very good job, Harvey. I hope to hear more from you soon.
Our second speech evaluator is Rich McDonald, and he will be evaluating Rob Kanzer's speech. Thank you.
Being heard, so I'm just going to leave that there.
Okay.
You know, I had this great approach to evaluating Rob's speech, and I have this wonderful checklist here that I took some time to research. I looked at 4 or 5 examples. I said, oh, this would be a great one. And then Rob started talking, and I'm trying to, you know, fill the dots and square the circles, and I realized trying to do that with Rob is like trying to nail Jello to the wall. So I then went back to my old method, which was I just started to write some things that he said. And of course, Rob assisted me in recalling some of his things. You had a little bit of a transition between the other speaker, which is okay, but I think sometimes it's good to just come up and just come right out of the gate and get an attention step. So that's one thing I would suggest as different. I mean, sometimes you have to transition depending on the context of the situation. So Rob's objectives, as I mentioned before, he talked about a personal story, a testimonial. So obviously he has authority with what he's talking about, because he's talking about...
Hello, can the owner of a gray Toyota RAV4, license plate 6ZP775, please come to the front desk? Thank you.
That's you? No.
Over the list, that's all right.
And I just noticed, I think I left some of my notes down there, but that's okay. Some of the things that Rob talked about was his specific diagnosis, which was acid reflux disease. And, you know, he talked about his esophageal ulcer, his inflamed stomach. Thank you, Rob. If I can just find it. Yes, somewhere, I think. Somewhere here. And I think what I would have done a little bit differently, your topic was specifically about learning about health. I would have narrowed that down a little bit and talked a little bit about your specific health condition or specific health situation. Rob's a master at body language, and he came out from behind the podium to forward with the podium. He had excellent use of his hand gestures. He would make specific points. So on the body language, 4 stars out of 4. Because sometimes the human anatomy can be a little bit complex, it might have been helpful. Wasn't necessary. I think you did an adequate job of maybe having an illustration of the part of the body that you were talking about. Sometimes that helps. You used vocal variety. You had effective use of pauses. All those were very good. And finally, you had a call for action. You asked us to help you with forming a group or finding a group and so forth and so on. So in that respect, it was good. I have my notes. You talked about specific vocabulary, proton pump inhibitors. You gave us lots of good information. You gave us nutritionfacts.org, which is you're backing up your personal testimonial story with evidence. I see the card is called. Very good job. Thank you, Robert.